You're listening to The Back 40, the podcast for Ontario farmers, covering topics and issues that matter most to Ontario agriculture. Brought to you by Trillium Mutual Insurance, bringing the ag community together one podcast at a time. I'm the host of The Back 40, Mike Bryan, agribusiness specialist at Trillium Mutual Insurance. For many of us that grew up in the agricultural and rural communities, 4-H has been kind of a rite of passage. Many of us took part in it as high school students and young adults, and we participated in the various clubs that were available in our area. I myself, I went on after that to become a leader for a few years as well. It's well supported within the agricultural community. With 4-H, much of it is hands-on that we do. We get involved in a lot of things and see a lot of things that we don't necessarily be able to see on our own farm or in our own life there. COVID-19 has changed that. Today, we're talking with Marianne Fallis, the Senior Manager of Programming with 4-H Ontario. Marianne, welcome to the Back 40.
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's great to be here.
So things have got to have changed with 4-H, with us not being able to get together with our social distancing. How's 4-H adapted to the new reality that is COVID-19?
Absolutely. I think COVID-19 has hit a lot of us in a wide variety of ways, and 4-H is no different. But I think we have the opportunity to celebrate all the ingenuity of our volunteers who have adapted along with us at the provincial organization to continue to provide meaningful learning opportunities for our youth across the province, especially in a difficult time like COVID-19. We've seen a lot over the last year, well, almost a year, I guess now, that COVID-19, like you said, we haven't been able to get in person, but our volunteers have really adapted. We've actually embraced the use of technology. So we've had a lot of volunteers finding use out of things like Zoom or Google Meets to still bring those clubs together and provide those learning opportunities for youth across the province.
How's that been received by the kids?
Yeah, I think, looking for those social connections are still really important to our youth today, and this still provides them that opportunity. And they love 4-H. I think that's something that a lot of us have in common is that connection back to the 4-H program. And even if it's in a Zoom environment, it is different. It does take a little bit of adjusting, but the opportunities are still there to continue to learn and grow. And I think our youth identify that and can connect with that.
Yes, I know that from when I was growing up, it was how soon can I get old enough so I can go join 4-H? I had an older brother that was involved, and it was like, okay, I don't want to wait any longer. I want to be in there now. And of course, you had to wait for that age. So there really was that anticipation for that. And it's good to hear that there's still that anticipation that 4-H is still a draw for many of the kids in the rural communities.
I lived that experience as well, Mike. My sister was a little bit older than me, and she went right into 4-H, and then I took over. So she went on to other interests, and I just blossomed in 4-H. It's really a personal thing for me in my work to be able to be part of this program and be able to give back to an organization that has given me so much, and seeing youth engage in it regardless of the times, COVID or not, is really an amazing experience.
Now, obviously, there's some things that they haven't been able to take part in. I know that the local fair day was a very big deal for many of us in 4-H. The opportunity to show animals and to get crop samples ready to put into competitions. This year, the fairs didn't happen. I know the one that I went to is Kirkton Fair, and it wasn't able to take place. How have you adapted for those opportunities for the kids to take part in those shows?
I think showing is an integral part of the 4-H program, but it's not the most important part. And I think sometimes we all have to remember that really the focus of 4-H is on the development of the young person. And if they're on the end of a halter, there's a great learning opportunity there. But there's so much more to 4-H than just that, from learning opportunities about care, nutrition, management, or any of the other aspects in cooking and baking and scrapbooking. There's so much more than just being on the end of the halter. An example that came up this year that has gone really, really well for some of our volunteers. We had a group of about 10 volunteers in Wellington, Waterloo area that hosted a club for over 100 youth from all across Ontario. They said, we're doing it virtually. We're going to offer it to anyone who wants to be a part of it with us. And they did. So it was an international lunch club. This club is a really great format. They had met for 2 hours on Saturday mornings. They sent out information about an area, a geographic location that they were going to highlight as part of their club, and sent the recipe and the instructions out ahead of time, and met over Zoom. And it was a follow along kind of experience. So they got to do things like the parliamentary procedure, the business meeting portions of the meeting that are come part and parcel with all of the learnings that are in the 4-H club. But they also got to follow along with somebody and learn how to make those recipes and then feed it to their families afterwards when they were done. And so there was a lot of happy families at the end of that who got to try a lot of new food.
Well, I think that's a terrible shame that wasn't around when my kids were that age, because I know that those were opportunities there, but it seemed that they were always eating the food and I was at home. So it would have been nice to have someone cooking lunch for me.
I look at the pictures from this club that are posted on social media, Mike, and I think, I wish that my son was just that many years older so that I could be sitting and enjoying those meals with people too.
Yes, but it's a great experience for the kids too. I mean, it's great to go someplace and learn how to cook that, but this puts more of the onus on yourself. There's no group work involved in it. You have to do that, but you still get that great experience and that learning experience of how do you make the food and that satisfaction of how good it tastes when you're done. It's a great thing to hear the opportunities, though, that have been that the kids have had. Like we had, I think in the largest 4-H group I think we had 20 kids, and you're talking 100 kids to be done by Zoom, and I assume from quite a wide area as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, they were far and wide across the province, from southwestern Ontario to eastern Ontario and everywhere in between.
Now, you mentioned parliamentary procedure, and I know that in the rural community, that's where many of us learned how to run a meeting and who was in order, who was out of order, and all the rules that you had to follow there. It's good to hear that that's still part of this, even though that we're social distancing.
Parliamentary procedure and meeting management is one of those core skills that youth that are involved in the 4-H program walk away with. And we wanted to make sure that those are still skills that are being built regardless of the delivery method of the program.
Now, I would assume that there's a lot of opportunity here as well to bring in guest speakers kids wouldn't otherwise have access to.
Yeah, some of our volunteers have amazing contacts all across the world. And we saw that in the club that I had talked about around the International Lunch Club. They actually had a past 4-H'er who now lives in South Africa come onto their Zoom call and teach some meals for South African cuisine, which I thought was really great. When we look at some of our other clubs within livestock industry and dairy in particular, we've heard a lot about over the summer how they engaged speakers from all over the world, from New Zealand to Australia to England, speakers that they wouldn't be able to come to a traditional 4-H meeting if it was being held in person, because you can't fly somebody for a 2-hour 4-H meeting in your backyard. The use of technology has just allowed that connection and the ability to learn from a much broader audience.
Yes, I think it would be safe to say that we always could have done this, but we never really thought of doing it because we weren't forced into the technology.
Absolutely. And I've been hearing over the last couple of months as well that when volunteers are looking at how they want to move forward, they said, when we go back to what I call 2019 normal and we can get together in person more consistently, that they don't want to lose that virtual component because of the amazing opportunities it provides for learning for the members.
One of the things that I recall when I was in 4-H were the camps and conferences and that opportunity to network with people from across North America, in many cases even wider than that. How have you adapted for stuff like that?
We've taken the opportunity to look at our camps and conferences because we still know that they add a lot of value to our participants when they are able to come and enjoy those with us. And we've adapted them to virtual environments as well. In 2020, we had some speaker series for conferences like our Dairy Sense program, and we offered exploring 4-H at home so that people could do it on their own time and in their own home and still be able to engage in 4-H that way. Looking forward to 2021, we are looking at doing them more virtually and connecting in that interactive space so that we're able to drill down to that experience that 4-H is normally providing. So that social connection along with the learning opportunities.
I would assume that the kids adapt to this better than those of us in the older generation, shall I say.
I can agree with that wholeheartedly. I learn something new every time I run one of these events, and the youth are typically teaching me things as well, which is is an amazing experience for us leaders and the people that are running the events for the members to learn from them too.
The international exchange opportunities that there always have been in 4-H, those, even though those are opened up to a fair number of 4-Hers, it's an expensive thing to go for however long you're gone in the summer, and it does cost money to be able to do that. I would assume that this is going to open that up to a lot of kids that wouldn't otherwise have had an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, I think that the camps and conferences are open to anyone, whether they're in 4-H or not, for the most part. And we invite people to use camps and conferences as an opportunity to see what 4-H is all about and experience what that kind of environment is, where you can kind of push your own boundaries and learn and grow, and then take that back to your home community.
It's a great marketing opportunity for 4-H as well as a great opportunity for the kids then.
For sure.
It's fair to say we're not going back then to the old way of doing things, that a lot of this stuff is going to get folded into the new normal, that the Zoom meetings are here and the international speakers and that sort of thing. We're going to be able to see that on a go forward basis then.
Absolutely. And I think what we'll see from 4-H at all levels is continuing to live our motto of learn to do by doing, and continuing to adapt and adjust and grow as society does as well.
So Marianne, every province has its own way of doing things. How do you connect to other provinces and any programming or any opportunities that might be there?
4-Hers across the country have a lot of great opportunities to get connected through 4-H Canada as the national body for our organization. There are exchanges and travel opportunities for youth to engage in. An example would be an inter-club exchange, or interprovincial exchange rather, where clubs can apply and be paired with another club from another province. And so then they take an opportunity to travel to the other province, and then they reciprocate back. There's also international travel opportunities as well. There's a Going Global exchange opportunity that's run, that a youth can pick a country that they're interested in and do an exchange with that group as well. So there's lots of great learning opportunities at 4-H, from the local club level to the province, to the national level and beyond, which I think is one of the great things about 4-H.
Yes, it's not just a local thing. It does run worldwide, that those opportunities are there.
One of the other things that has come up over the last couple of years, in 2017, actually, there was a 4-H Global Summit that was hosted in Canada, and it was the second one that's been held. And it provided an opportunity for 4-Hers from across the world to come together and share resources and learn from one another. And we constantly looking for ways that we can partner with other organizations, learn from each other, and use that to better the programming for our youth so they can become contributing citizens in their local areas and across the world.
Some of those are opportunities that, for obvious reasons through COVID, that are not available to the kids right now. But that's something that hopefully in the future we're going to see that open up again as opportunities.
Absolutely. I really believe that COVID has just put all those opportunities on pause for the health and safety of our participants. And as soon as we're able to get back to that they'll be opened up for our youth to engage in again.
Yeah, those exchanges are great opportunities. I know my brother was involved in one down to Iowa, and he had a fantastic time. Now that's a few years ago, but still, it's a great opportunity for kids to expand their horizons and see other things that are going on outside of their own backyard. And agriculture isn't the same everywhere we go.
For sure. It also gives the youth an opportunity to build independence that they wouldn't necessarily have gained in other ways. I recently talked to one of our participants who said they participated in an interprovincial exchange and they had never traveled on their own. And that was the first time that they had traveled on their own. So when they came back from that, the sense of independence and the knowledge that they could do that and have that kind of experience has really helped build their self-confidence to be able to do things like that in the future.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for somebody to learn when they're of a younger age. And as you say, they've never been anywhere on their own. And all of a sudden, there's nobody there to pick up the pieces. If you forget something, you've got to make sure that you've got that looked after all on your own. Do you like what you're hearing from the Back 40? We'd like to hear from you. Send us an email with your comments and thoughts to theback40@trilliummutual.com or follow us on social media @TrilliumMutual. Now, there's also some opportunities there that you offer through scholarships, is there not?
We're very lucky as an organization to have partnerships with a variety of organizations that see the value in supporting 4-H members to continue their education outside of the 4-H program through college, university, and entrepreneurships. There are a variety of scholarships that are open to 4-H members, and so you have to be involved in the program in order to receive those. One of the ones that's a really shining achievement, I think, is at the national level. One of the opportunities at the national level is called a LEAD scholarship. And this is actually a significant scholarship and comes with a mentorship opportunity as well. The LEAD scholarships are highly sought after opportunities to engage with a mentor of high caliber in the area of interest for the youth in whatever field they're studying. They fall within our 4-H leadership development pillars of sustainable agriculture and food security, environment and healthy living, communications and community engagement, and science and technology.
Those are fantastic opportunities for kids to take advantage of. Anytime that you can converse with someone, as you say, from a mentor standpoint, that's always a great opportunity.
So many learning opportunities there. And the practical application that you have a network that you're creating, not only within your club, but with people that are in the industry that can help you long-term in your career.
We often underestimate the advantages of having contacts that are widespread and in different portions of agriculture. That ability at some point just to pick up the phone and call someone and say, hey, what do you think about this? So that's something that I found from my education was maybe the most valuable part of what I learned when I was away at school.
I learned that as well. And I remember when I was in first year university that somebody said to me, don't let your schoolwork get in the way of your education. And that was a really important part for me and really helped me to continue to embrace my 4-H connections while I was away at school so that I could continue that learning outside of the classroom and create those connections.
Yes, as long as we continue to remember to go to school and do all of the assignments, it's a great education, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yep.
I'm sure that the kids are looking forward to getting back together in person for some of these meetings, even though you're able to still offer them programming through a virtual setting here. One of the things, though, that particularly for during COVID, we've noticed that there's been some mental health issues throughout rural and urban Canada as well. But particularly, we're talking in the rural area here, adults that sometimes struggle, and kids are no different. That isolation is difficult for many people when they're not able to get out and be with their friends like they normally would. Can you talk a little bit about the initiatives that 4-H in Ontario are taking to try and deal with this problem?
The overall health, I mean, one of our H's is health in the 4-H's. And we want to make sure that as an organization, we're providing opportunities for our youth and volunteers to continue to advance their health, whether that physical, social, emotional, or mental health, and keeping that in mind as we develop programs. We've been really thankful to receive some funding from Trillium Mutual Insurance to do a Taking Our Mental Health to Heart project to help us really strengthen our offerings around mental health awareness and mental health support for our 4-Hers across the province.
Mental health has been of particular interest here at Trillium Mutual. Our Roots Council, that is our philanthropic arm, has been most interested over the last year in that as an initiative, and we're certainly pleased to provide some funding through to 4-H for the Taking Our Mental Health to Heart. Now, that title, Taking Our Mental Health to Heart, that's got two of the 4-H's that 4-H stands for in the title there. That can't be an accident, is it?
I'm sure it's very strategic. Like we have our 4-H's, our head, heart, hands, and health. And really, we like to look at all of those components to make up the whole. So I'm sure that our communications manager, when she came up with the title, absolutely put those in strategically.
Can you talk a little bit about what the program entails?
Absolutely. So this is a new initiative for us. Historically, the 4-H program builds resilience in youth in a variety of different ways from all the interactions and club meetings and camps and conferences and things like that. And we really wanted to take a more targeted approach to providing those supports to our participants. So we're working on an initiative which we've called Taking Our Mental Health to Heart, that's going to provide more resources to our volunteers and youth to be able to engage and strengthen and support their mental health. The project is taking on a variety of different components. We're starting off with some short videos that highlight some mental health challenges that people might be facing to bring awareness to those to our volunteers and our youth. And then from building on that, we're going to have worksheets and activity sheets, interactive games and activities that can be woven through the entire 4-H programs, from local club activities up to provincial camps and conferences.
So this is going to be part of the 4-H curriculum going forward then. It's not a separate club that we're talking here. This is something that all of the kids are going to be exposed to.
Absolutely. There'll be resources that volunteers can pick up and take into any of the clubs as they're comfortable to have those conversations with their youth.
This is a topic that a lot of kids don't want to discuss. I think a lot of adults don't want to discuss it, and particularly in the agricultural community, there's always been a reluctance to talk about mental health from a personal standpoint when people are struggling. This is going to bring that topic to kids, that they're going to be exposed to it, and we're going to see some kids that are going to learn to talk about this, and that should carry through into their lives as they become adults as well, shouldn't it?
I think so. And that's our hope. In preparation for our project, we've had some stakeholder engagement sessions where we've invited volunteers and youth from across the province to come and share what they think is important for us to cover and how this can be woven through our program. And by far and away, the biggest feedback that we get from those stakeholder engagement sessions was, we need to help end the stigma associated with those discussions around mental health. Mental health, just like our physical health that we talk a lot about 4-H, mental health is a big part of that. We have to put our body and our mind as a priority in all things that we do. And we hope that the tools that are developed as part of this program will help our youth to do that and to grow into successful and capable individuals that we know that they can be.
Yes, we've always been very comfortable if somebody has an obvious physical problem, break a leg or an arm or something, it doesn't have that same stigma attached to it. We're very careful to be able to help those people out. Do you think that's the reason we don't talk about mental health, is because it is unseen, or are we just uncomfortable with it?
I think my personal feeling around it, Mike, is around that it is something that is unseen, and it hasn't had the same kind of conversation built up around it. It's a lack of understanding, I think, as well of the impacts of mental health. So I think with mental health, it is something that, unless you've dealt with it before, you might not truly understand. So there is an unknown component to it, which influences people's comfort level and how they can interact and have those discussions. I think it's important that we as an organization and each of us individually become aware of what challenges are out there for mental health, because at some point it will come back and touch one of our lives in some way, shape, or form.
Yes, I think that it's something that as we talk more about it, we hear more about it, we know of more people that have been affected by it. I know the Bell Let's Talk Day encourages people to talk about how these issues affect them. And that certainly is something that to get that conversation going is really, really important. But it's also important that kids learn how to manage that when they do talk about it, that there's something there to help them as well.
Absolutely. And I really hope that the outcome of this project gives our youth and our volunteers the freedom and the understanding to be vulnerable with each other and have those conversations, so that everybody can be successful and feel comfortable with wherever they're at in their mental health and physical health journey.
So where in the process are you with developing the Take Our Mental Health to Heart program?
Yeah, so we have had a variety of stakeholder engagement sessions, and we're now compiling all of that feedback and starting to flush out all of the activities. Our delivery launch date for the program will be in summer of 2021. So we're really looking forward to having all of those components come together.
So that'll be part of the clubs that are run this year. The volunteers will have access to the new curriculum then.
Yes, coming up this summer, all of the materials will be released, and it can be woven into our 4-H program across the province.
Is there any additional training that being planned for the volunteers themselves?
We are offering training sessions for our volunteers. One of them is coming up actually at the end of March as part of our volunteer conference. Over the last couple of years, we've had some sessions that were focused on mental health awareness. The session this year will tie into all of the deliverables that were coming out of the Taking Our Mental Health to Heart project. There will be some short videos that will be available as part of this toolkit, if you will, of resources that our volunteers can use for their own learning, as well as sharing that with youth. So
it's not just going to be for the kids, it's the adults are going to get an education as well.
I I think it goes hand in hand all the time. There's always opportunities to learn. And as our volunteers are open to learning, they can share that learning with the youth as well. So it really does go hand in hand.
That's great to hear. I know that we've heard in the industry that there's a lack of resources, and this certainly is a great spot to be able to have resources available for our younger generation, because we're starting to talk about how we can make those resources available to adults and people in the farming community. Sometimes the kids get forgotten. Sometimes they get left behind.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot about that. There's so many initiatives that are focused on mental health in agriculture and within just for the older and or more experienced audience, I guess, if you look at it in life instead of older.
I appreciate that.
I do too. But absolutely. So I think that this will be a nice complement to those resources for the more experienced generation, and then they can learn together.
That's great. So if someone wants to find out more information about 4-H in Ontario, how do they go about doing that?
The best place to find more information about 4-H in Ontario is to head to our website, which is www.4-hontario.ca, and that's the number 4. That has all the information about the projects that people can be a part of, how to register online and get connected to a club in your area, and more information about the scholarships, awards, and opportunities that are all a part of 4-H program.
Marianne, it's been great speaking with you today. We've been speaking with Marianne Fallis from 4-H Ontario about how 4-H has adapted to the new reality that is COVID-19, and also about their taking our mental health to heart. Marianne, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Next time on The Back 40, we'll be talking about farm safety. Join us as we talk with Stephanie Berkeley from the Farm Safety Foundation in the United Kingdom. You've been listening to The Back 40, brought to you by Trillium Mutual Insurance. Be sure to subscribe to The Back 40 wherever you find your favorite podcasts so that you don't miss an episode. The Back 40, bringing the ag community together one podcast at a time. I'm Mike Brine. Until next time, take care and stay safe.